Warm welcome viewers, you're watching 7 at 7, the only news bulletin where I curate the day's top 7 stories for our viewers. I'm Preeti Chaudhary and let me quickly take you through the headlines. Explosive new facts about Tawang clash. Inside scoop on Indian Army's response. Chinese troops were chased, crashed and overpowered. Chinese troops completely overwhelmed as Indian Army was fully prepared. India today accesses satellite images of the likely site of clash in Tawang. Images show Chinese build-up and India's counter along the Arunachal border. Supreme Court Judge Bela Trivedi recuses from hearing the Bilkis Bano's plea challenging release of rape convicts. Reports suggest that the move due to Justice Trivedi's appointment as Law Secretary in Gujarat government from 2004 to 2006. Disgraced crypto honcho Sam Bankman Fried, the FTX CEO who lost $10 billion in just 3 days, has been arrested. The Bahamian Attorney General now expects an extradition of the 30-year-old entrepreneur from the United States. Verified Twitter users to lose blue check soon. Elon Musk says they were given out in a corrupt way. Yet another Musk bid to take away the exclusivity that comes with the blue tick. Meanwhile, viewers, we get you the exclusive inside scoop that reveals how the Indian Army was ready and fully prepared to thwart any Chinese provocation, and the PLA troops marched back. Our next report gives you that full picture.
9th December 2022, the India-China clash in Yangtze Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. But this time, bully Beijing was schooled with full aggression. Overwhelmed and overpowered, the Chinese were chased away after a 25-minute clash. India today has the full picture, the 17 steps of what actually happened.
This time the Indian Army had intelligence about the gradual Chinese build-up and the Chinese move towards the higher reaches dominated by India. India had taken adequate measures in time. Not only were a larger number of troops deployed, but reinforcements were also called in. So the moment the Chinese soldiers came, they were overwhelmed by superior number of Indian troops and also the fact that Indian troops had better training and tactics for 17,000 feet altitude.
Indian troops rapidly summoned reinforcements that immediately surrounded and pounced on the Chinese. In at least 2 pockets, Chinese soldiers were beaten up badly and they began to retreat. Indian troops chased the Chinese troops. Some Chinese were even temporarily captured. A group of about 50 Indian Army troops then aggressively approached the Chinese post, after which the Chinese fired warning shots in the air, totally unnerved. Indian troops stayed put on the Chinese side as a show of force and issued a warning, after which they returned back to the Indian side.
When fists flew, some Chinese soldiers tried to retreat. Their reinforcements came in. According to our sources, and this is unconfirmed, some Chinese soldiers were temporarily held captive. But then the Indian soldiers also chased the Chinese soldiers back to their camp. The Chinese thought they would be able to overwhelm or browbeat the Indians, but they were in for a rude shock. With Shivarur and camera person Yogendra Singh in Tawang sector, Arunachal Pradesh, Gaurav Sawant for India Today.
Yes, I'm going to bring in my colleague Abhishek Balla, who's going to tear it down, break it down for you, and what exactly went down on the border in the Yangtze area of Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. Abhishek, what are your sources telling you? A lot of that information, of course, sensitive. We do get to understand that. But what is it that we can reaffirm with conviction right now?
Preeti, there was a build-up over the last 15-20 days. I have some details of what exactly happened on ground, what the Chinese were thinking. and how the Indians responded. So it all started with the induction of one new unit of the Indian Army in the Yangtze sector. The Chinese thought that they have a good chance to intimidate them, scare them, and make some advances in this area. Now, Yangtze is one of the 8 disputed sites between India and China, which are mutually agreed, and this is the only one where India has complete control. The Indian side is in dominance since years. It's not the first time a face-off has taken place here. In fact, face-offs are pretty common here because the fact that India is in control and is in an advantageous position is something that has riled up the Chinese for many years now. But this time around, there has been a lot of infrastructure development, not just on the Chinese side, but also on the Indian side. And that's the reason why the Chinese wanted to dislodge the Indians from one of the key positions that they hold even now at 17,000 feet at an advantageous mountain peak. And this has been happening for over the last 2 weeks. There were face-offs. There was also a constant military dialogue happening at the local commander level. But all of that had failed. India was hoping that there will be some kind of a resolution. But on December 9, the Chinese came in big numbers. Because the Indian side had prior information and intelligence, the incursion attempt was thwarted, and that's when this ugly clash took place. Now things are calm since December 9, but when something of this nature happens, then obviously things are going to be volatile for some time to come even now.
Abhishek, one thing now is established that the provocation came from the Chinese side.
That's right, and as I said that, the provocation was happening for over 15-20 days. It's not something that happened out of the blue. The reason that the Indians were able to thwart this attempt was because they were aware that these attempts are going to take place.
Okay.
One of the reasons why India is better prepared is, Preeti, I have been in the Tawang sector last year, and there's a huge thrust on enhancing India's surveillance capabilities, and they were put to good test here.
Abhishek, stay on with me. I want to connect right now to our managing editor, Gaurav Sawant, who's en route to Tawang. He's joining us live from, you can see his car at the back. Gaurav, take us through on what are your sources telling you as you inch closer to the border where this clash took place. Ultimately, what has emerged now, which seems rather obvious, the provocation came from the Chinese side, and India gave a befitting reply.
Indeed. In fact, Preeti, what held India in good stead here is massive infrastructure development and push. The road we are on right now, it's a good road, and this is a road that actually shows the ease with which men and material can move to back or beyond in Tawang. And we've been reporting from this area over past decades, in 2 decades, the infrastructure push has been massive. That's point one. Point two, deployment and resources. Surveillance, Abhishek was talking about, the drones that Indian Army is using in this area. The Indian Air Force has also enhanced its deployment in this area. If I may, Preeti, the Indian Air Force is going to carry out a big exercise on the 15th and 16th of December here using its Su-30 MKIs, and these are huge multi-role combat aircraft capable of carrying up to 8 tons of weapons and with advanced avionics. So you'll have an Indian Air Force exercise. You have drones that are being used in this area. You have troops who are deployed very extensively in this area in good numbers, and a lot of arms and ammunition that have been thrown in. So with this, with battle acclimatized troops, high altitude acclimatized troops, it's cold, sub-zero temperature, 15 to 17,000 feet altitude, in some instances even more. So when you have your soldiers deployed, their morale high, they're able to read the enemy's mind and push the enemy back. The Chinese incidentally issued a statement a short while back. The Western Theater Command of China issued a statement today where the Chinese conceded that there was an engagement between the Chinese troops and the Indian troops. They claimed, of course, India had crossed the LAC and come on their side, and that is where an engagement had taken place. But now both the sides have disengaged, and efforts are being made to ensure that peace prevails. But Preeti, given the fact that this is India's G20 presidency year, it is a given that there will be a spike in tension because China is rattled by India's growing stature and India's growing economic and military might. Already the 5th largest economy, and the effort is to be the 3rd largest economy in the next decade or so. So China will try and do everything it can to keep India down. It remains to be seen how quickly can India ensure it's no longer a cost-effective strategy for China to continue to adopt.
The fact that you talk about, Gaurav, of the reinforcement, especially in infrastructure, we're a very different border with China than what it was years ago. Having said that, was this also one of the main reasons that ultimately reinforcements also came in very soon and we could not just push but maybe give China a bloody nose as well?
Preeti, you're absolutely right. All along the line of actual control, whether we were to talk about Arunachal Pradesh, and Arunachal Pradesh is extremely critical. China claims it as southern Tibet, says Tawang is a part of China, and this is something that people in Arunachal Pradesh are very angry and very unhappy about. And, we've been speaking to people all along this journey, in service and civilians, and it's the civilians who say that this is unacceptable, the way China behaves. And they too are a part of this infrastructure development journey. And it's not just roads, it's airfields that are coming up, it's heliports that are coming up for quicker movement of men and material, and a network of roads and bridges that are being built by the Border Roads Organization. And that ensures faster movement of men and material in this area. When you talk about helipads, whether you talk about roads, and look, even at night, you have movement. Once upon a time in this area post sundown, there was no question of movement right from Assam all the way up to Arunachal Pradesh. But now till 10:30 at night, there is massive movement that continues to take place. Civilian movement, of course. Military convoys also continue to move as and when required. So that infrastructure push is holding India in good stead. Also, the fact that India's, the will to dominate the line of actual control, the will not to cede any ground to China, whether it was at Doklam, when the moment a red line was crossed, India ensured that China was pushed back, to Galwan, to Pengongso, and now here in Yangtze. India is making sure that India's red lines are not breached.
All right, appreciate you joining us, gentlemen, both Abhishek Bhalla, who's tracking the developments back here in Delhi, Gaurav Sawant, who's inching very close to the border in Tawang. We're going to keep a keen eye on all developments and get our viewers the latest. A quick shifting the focus right now to the other tragic story that has come through viewers from Rajasthan, Kota. 3 students died by suicide at Rajasthan's Kota, also known as India's biggest coaching and education hub. The 3 students have been living in the same hostel for the past 7 months and were NEET and JEE aspirants. Now, as per the cops, 1 student died by rat poisoning while the other 2 young men were found hanging in their hostel rooms. While the cops are investigating the matter, no suicide notes have been found. This tragic incident happened on the same day in the same hostel, viewers, putting the spotlight on the country's biggest coaching hub, Kota, where students claim to be under tremendous pressure to perform well in medical and engineering entrance examinations. Some of them actually moved to Kota as early as they're in their 11th standard to make sure that they attain their dream, or rather their family's dream, of cracking entrance examinations, be it medical or engineering. This year alone, 20 students died by suicide in Kota. This year alone, viewers.
कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट के बालक हैं, बच्चे, जिन्होंने सुसाइड किया है, जिनकी डेड बॉडी पोस्टमार्टम के लिए पोस्टमार्टम होम पर लेकर आए हैं। इसकी कार्रवाई जारी है।
उसकी बहन खुशी का फ़ोन आया कि दिया सुसाइड कर लिया है, तो मैं वहाँ से भागते वक्त पहुँचा तो उसके हॉस्टल के नीचे देखा कि काफ़ी पुलिस की गाड़ियाँ लगी हुई थी, हमने सर्विस लगी हुई थी, तो ऊपर जाके देखा कि पंखे से मेरी लास्ट बार तो उससे 1 दिन पहले हुई थी 8:30 में। मैं उधर से पंजाबी मेस से मैं खाना खा के आ रहा था।
मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि वो लोग काफ़ी दूर से आ रहे हैं, काफ़ी अपने शहर छोड़ के, घर परिवार छोड़ के, और फिर कभी हो सकता है उनसे पढ़ाई ढंग से नहीं हो रहा, मार्क्स नहीं आ रहे हो, तो उस वजह से, टेंशन की वजह से हो सकता है वो सुसाइड कर रहे हो। क्योंकि जब कोई इतने पैसे लगाकर अपना सब कुछ छोड़ कर आ रहा है, तो इस वजह से लगता है मुझे कि वो सुसाइड कर रहे हैं।
Deeply unsettling, viewers, deeply, deeply tragic. Three students, two of them hailing from Bihar, one of them from Uttar Pradesh. All three died by suicide, and that's the irony of it, in one same hostel. All three of them, same hostel, same day. The reason which we've been given to understand, they were not happy because they had not cracked NEET. But I'm going to bring in my colleague Dev Wadhavan to get us more information. Dev, what else do you know? There is no suicide note, but all three of these students taking their lives the same day in the same hostel. Any idea with who you're speaking to? What happened? What made them take that drastic step?
Well, Preeti, clearly, it's kind of tragic, the kind of suicides that have emerged from Kota. What we know of the latest, tragic incident is that there were three students, two of them were from Bihar, one was from Madhya Pradesh. All three of them were engineering students. Two of them were staying together. The other person was staying separately. Prima facie, it seems that, the pressure of studies, which seemingly can be, unimaginable for someone outside that entire structure which Kota provides, and for sometimes for students who come from outside places like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, or other places, the entire structure is quite different, and the competitive exams require a different level of effort. Sometimes when students themselves feel that they are not up to it, that they have not been able to match up to those standards which sometimes get established in these kind of scenarios, that is when perhaps not assisted by the kind of support structure that should be there. These kind of reports have come in the past also, students taking extreme steps. Look at the figures, Preeti. In the last 11 years itself, more than 150 students have died by suicide in the coaching hub called Kota. In the last 1 month itself, there have been 6 suicides. In this year itself, there have been 20 students who have died by suicide in Kota. In the last few years, in the last year, it was the figure was 4. In the year prior to that, also, So it's been a constant pattern which has emerged from Kota, and it's primarily been students who have been coming from other states, who have somehow, felt that they have not been able to match up to the kind of peer pressure that prevails in these kind of scenarios, have taken to these kind of extreme steps. The police is currently investigating the latest matter. It has not, come conclusively as to what was the exact reason behind the latest spate of 3 suicides. But there has been a pattern to the suicides which have emerged from Kota, and something clearly has gone gravely wrong in the structure, in the entire coaching hub known as Kota in the country. Preeti.
Well, thank you, Dev, for getting us that latest information. Just the figures, viewers. 6 suicides in 1 month, 3 just yesterday. 2 of them roommates, young kids, supremely bright. But this is what you get. We're going to keep a keen eye, get you all the latest developments onto why these 3 students went ahead and took their own lives in Kota. Viewers, you're watching a fact-check segment where we bust certain claims masquerading to be facts on social media platforms and WhatsApp group. There's a claim floating about suggesting that water flowing from the Vande Bharat AC went. Well, the fact-check on that 2019 video of the Bengaluru-Patna Sangamitra Express, nothing to do with the Vande Bharat trains. With that quick fact-check, time for me to take a quick break. You do stay with us, because on the other side, it's to the point.